From hookups to blowups and everything in between, this is Reality Recap. We've got all the highlights, lowlights, and messy fights. So let's dish. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pam Unfiltered. This is episode 5, 6, and 7 of Love is Blind UK Season 2. We're lumping 6, 7, and 8 together in one video because technically at this time, they have wrapped up Season 2. All 10 episodes have been released, and tonight, which is Sunday, is the reunion. Okay? All right, so let's get started. So episode 6 opens up where we left off in episode 5. That's Ashleigh and Billy meeting her dad and letting her dad know that Billy is not her boyfriend, but yet it is her fiance. And when she announces this to her father, he gives a bit of a shock to his face. Nothing like exaggeration, but he's just like, wait, you have a fiance? Like, I've never met this man before. I've never even seen you date this man before. Like, what's going on? So she explains the experiment. She explains that, they really fell in love, sight unseen. They really meshed well together, and how Billy vowed to take care of her. Billy says, I'm in this to find a wife. I'm not in here to play no games. This is very real to me. And yes, I will indeed take care of your daughter. Her father really can't say too much. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, she's a grown woman and there's not much influence when your kids are now adults. So, he accepts the marriage and them getting married, but he asks her, like, so when's the wedding? And she's like, in 3 weeks. And he's like, damn, 3 weeks? Like, first of all, you're laying it on me that you have a fiance, but now you're getting married in 3 weeks. Like, you don't think this is a rush? But that's the experiment. When she's explaining this to her father, I'm curious, and this goes across the board for all Love is Blind. Doesn't matter where it is. Is it in their contract to just tell their parents, oh, I'm doing an experiment, but don't go into details on what that experiment is because of the shock face they want to see when it's time to meet their parents? I'm very curious because it's just crazy to me how you don't tell your parents, excuse me, my earphones coming out. You don't tell your parents, your friends, your family the details of where you're going. Very odd. But anyway, so now we get Kieran and Megan at dinner. Kieran makes her beautiful dinner. They're sitting down, enjoying it. And, she says she can get used to his cooking. But he explains to her, like, you fit so well into my life. Like, I really care about you. I really love you. He can't wait to get married. This is the time where Megan expresses how she feels about him. She's so glad that she met him. And then she finally says that she loves him, which I thought was the perfect time. It's just them two, technically them two, they're intimate, they're having dinner, and her telling him, right? And you could just see just all the joy on Kieran's face. He's so excited that she finally said, I love you. Because, that's the one thing that I think he was skeptical between the two and might have held him back from marrying her. But she said it, and he is all joy, right? So then they come together, they kiss. And then the next day, you see them preparing to go to London. Because remember, the apartments are in Manchester. And a lot of them live in London. So you see them preparing to go to London to see his house and to meet his friends. So next we get Javen and Jed just walking along Manchester, drinking coffee, chumming it up. They stop by this like little river. And, Javen asks Jed, like, are you ready for marriage? Like, are you ready to marry this woman? Are you in love? And Jed is telling him, like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm in love with this woman. Like, there's nothing that will hold me back. And here comes Javen. I want to call him Javen so bad, but that's not his name. I think it's Javen. It's Javen or Javen. But anyway, I really don't give a fuck, to be honest with you. But Javen says, no, he's not ready. They're not in love with one another. And the main issue that he has with Katisha is the communication. Their communication is completely different. I think he's a little bit more bolder and upfront. And I think she She kinda like hides away. She's not honest when it comes to their communication with whatever they're talking about, and that's where he has his issues. So now we get Katisha and Sarova, and Katisha is hanging out with Sarova in her house. She mentions to Katisha, like, me and Cal are getting ready to head up to where he lives, his hometown, to meet his family. And then she mentions like text messages from her mom, because I guess she must have, I don't know if she spoke to her mother like via phone or like text message, letting her know that she is now engaged to somebody, and her mother's very worried. Like, this is not the norm for Sarova. Sarova is the first child. She stays in line, and for her to do an experiment, all of a sudden she's engaged and we have never met this man, is out of character. She's saying her mother is sending her all these long text messages, and she's just very frustrated because it's like, are you not going to you're not necessarily support her, but you're not going to trust in me that I can make a good decision with the great man. So that was what she was venting to Katisha. Katisha, of course, brings the situation up about Damola and Javen, and how that's pretty much the issue that they're having. Like, she did admit that she said that thing where, oh, you don't have to worry, to Damola. And even though Javen comes off very nonchalant, you could clearly tell he's still bothered by it because he, brought it up with Jed. And she's just really frustrated about their communication. So now we go back to Kieran and Megan. They're in London and they go into his home. London homes are so tiny. I don't know, maybe because there's so many people. I forgot how many people live in London, but it's so many people who live in London. Everybody's, things are being built, and there's a lot of like old school homes as well. But it's just, it was a cute house for one person. He shows her around. They go into the kitchen. He opens the refrigerator and opens the cabinets. All he has is beer and condiments, and Megan is on the floor. Like, she's like, pretty much, this is like a typical man's house. Like, there's nothing in this house. So then they go up to his room. His room is so tiny because I believe he owns that house. He is a gaming entrepreneur, so I know he makes a lot of money, but his room is so tiny. There's like no space between his bed, the wall, and where his gaming system is. But he shows little trinkets on the shelves. He's like, I tried the ukulele, but honey, I wasn't good at it. She's like, well, I want to hear something. He's like, no. And then he shows her his gaming system, and then he's like, I want you to sit here. I want you to get the full experience of how it looks. Then we cut to her saying, like, she's very proud that he was able to take something that he loves and pretty much make a career out of it, which to me is so rare to experience. Like, most people work and they hate their jobs, but to be able to fall in love with something and to be able to make a career out of it is just goals. So now we get Billy and Ashleigh, like, kind of like not necessarily a dinner date, but they're just out getting drinks and they're just discussing their relationship, how living together has been amazing. They mesh so well, but then they also talk about, what are they going to say at the altar? And, Billy's saying, 50-50, but then they kind of also discuss certain things like, Ashleigh says she doesn't mind doing like womanly duties, but before she gets a chance to do it, he's already up and he's doing it. And I think she needs to, I understand she's voicing that to him, but she also needs to understand is that he's a very routine person. He's been in the military for a very, very long time. And that's just the way he is. I think like after making food and chilling, she's the type of person to go, okay, we ate, let's go watch some TV for an hour or so. Then I'll get up and then I'll do the dishes. Whereas him, he's probably like, you know what, we finished eating, let me get up and wash the dishes, and that's that. Very, very different. But she's just letting him know that she has no problem doing those type of duties and pretty much just allow me to do it, right? But he says, don't take offense to me, getting up and doing it. It's just a routine that I'm used to, right? So now we get Kieran and Megan meeting his friends. His friends are so ordinary looking compared to him. But they meet, they chat, they have a discussion like, how did you guys meet in the pods? Like, how do you fall in love? Are you a little skeptical that this is moving a little fast? And they answer the questions. Yes, we know it's fast, but we have fallen in love with each other, and we trust the process, right? So then, not much going on, honestly. So then we get Jed and Barta. So then we get Jed and Barter on a date. And they're just talking about stuff, getting to know one another. But the main problem in their relationship is that Barter is so used to being independent. I think because her parents were immigrants and they technically still don't know the English language very well, that she had to take a lot of reins on a lot of things, and it made her really, really, really independent, right? And she's explaining this to him, and it just seems like, I know she wants to, but it seems to be really hard for her to let go of the reins and allow him to be the man and take care of her. But in the conversation, she gives pretty much an example why she's so independent, and not necessarily independent, but how she takes the reins and things. So her mother was not feeling well. They went to the doctor. Her mother had a breast exam, and then when he went to the doctor, they told her, both of them, that she was diagnosed with breast cancer. But mind you, her mother doesn't know English very well. So she is hearing this information. She's crying, and her mother's like, "What's going on? You got to tell me." And she's just like, "How am I going to break this to my mom?" Like, she's just, feeling very, very emotional. But then she says, luckily it was taken care of. Her mother is in remission and doing really well. Jess tells her, like, listen, I'm happy that your mother is, doing well. But pretty much I'm letting you know that I'm here to be your husband. I'm here to take care of you. And she agrees, but we all know how Barta is. She just can't let go of those reins. And that is the problem in their relationship. So now we get Javen and Katisha on a dinner date. And again, the whole Zamola, topic comes up. And, he tells her, like, it's okay if you, talk to him, explain the situation, and kind of end that so that we can move on. And she agrees, and she says, well, do you mind if I text him right now? And even though Javen smiles, you could clearly tell he was bothered. She could have did that at another time, not at the dinner date. But he goes, okay, go ahead. And she's texting, and he makes a comment like, damn, what are you writing to him? It's so long. And she's like, oh, no. Something about Javen, like, he's not very honest with his emotions, so he hides it with a smile. But I'm not trying to put this on a black man specifically, but there's something about him that, like, seeds, it's under him that it's like a lot of anger. And I'm not saying he'll be abusive, but he just holds a lot in that's just gonna come out, and it's not gonna be in a good way. So you get what I'm saying? Like, his just anger just like seethes under him, and it just looks really scary. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think about that. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe I'm the only one to see that, but yeah. Him and his feelings, I'm not feeling. So Rova and Cal are in Wigan, his hometown. He takes her over to get some sort of, like, I guess, town sandwich. It didn't look appetizing. It looked like there was like something blocky in between two pieces of bread. It didn't look appetizing at all. I don't know what it is. It just, yeah, it was a no. So they go to his mother. It was either his mother's house or his grandmother's house. I'm assuming it's his mother's house. And they meet his mother and his grandmother. They are very welcoming. And that's what I like. I never understand when you are with someone and you're meeting their family. Their family's kind of like hard and standoffish. Like, why do you want to make someone feel uncomfortable? I know you're trying to assess the situation to see if this person is worthy, but you don't have to make them feel uncomfortable. And I just like the way his mother and his grandmother was just very nice and easygoing and made it very comfortable for Sarova. They do ask them a couple of questions like, yeah, is it fast? Like, what are you like? What is, what made you two want to get married and, be engaged and want to get married so fast? And they just tell him, like, we really enjoyed each other. We have a lot of things in common. And, we just fell in love, and they accept it. They talk about the grandmother, oh, how long you been married with grandpa? She says 63 years. On their 60th anniversary, the queen sent them a beautiful, like, letter or plaque stating congratulations on your 60 years of marriage. Then we get Cal's brother that comes into the home. He pulls him off to the side to the kitchen, I guess, to make some tea. And he talks to him like, okay, like, what's going on here? He explains to him. He said, are you really ready? Because I can see Sarova putting you first, but I don't see you putting her first. Like, are you truly ready for this marriage? Because I can just tell. And also, she's not your usual type. Like, you remember, he said he liked blonde women, and Sarova obviously is a POC Indian woman, right? So he says, listen, that's what I love her. She's so different compared to everybody else. And then we cut to his brother in his own little confessional. He's like, do I see myself seeing them last? And he's like, if I had to bet my life on it, no. And I'm just like, damn, like, I understand your family, your sibling, your whoever, but give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't understand how people are so involved with other people's personal business like that. You have to be a supporter. Whether you like it or not, you have to be a supporter. And I hate when people are so vocal negatively. It just like, it makes the person feel uncomfortable. It's very unnecessary. It's just unnecessary. So finally, we get Katisha and Damola. Katisha's at the bar. Damola comes down. He says, how are you doing? They hug. You know what I mean? She explains to him, like, I know I said these things to you. I know that you were ready to propose because I did say for you not to worry. But she said, I just had a lot of back and forth going on. And I just realized that I had a lot more in common with Javen than you. He tells her, it really, really hurt because I was ready to propose to you. Like, you gave me the reassurance and I was ready and I was really, really hurt. One thing that I noticed, she did not apologize to him. And I just thought that was very selfish of her. Like, she's not apologizing, she's expressing her feelings, but I feel like she just doesn't care about his. She comes off like she does, but at the end of the day, she doesn't, because she should have apologized for leading him on. And she talks about she has more in common with Javen. Exactly what do you have in common? What do you have in common with this man? I'll wait. Nothing. What you see in Javen is what you had prior in other relationships. That's why you were attached to him. It was easy for you to go with Javen than to be with somebody that you truly wanted, which was Mr. Darcy. You didn't want that because you're not ready for that, so you went over here to this fuckboy Javen. That's what you did. So now we get Barda and Jed meeting her parents. Like Cal's mother and grandmother, Barda's mother and father are so welcoming. They give him hugs. He gives her flowers, her mother flowers. He gives Barda flowers. They sit and they talk. They discuss, how did they meet? Again, I think they understand English more than they can speak it. But Jed, explains, like, the first time I met her, I enjoyed our conversation. I just fell in love and we just continued on, and now we're engaged. You know what I mean? They do talk about the situation of the, giving up the reins. But then, her parents said, we accept you guys getting married. And then they talk about having kids. And he's like, oh, Jed goes, you want, how many grandkids you want? She's like, I want 6. And I want 6 right now. And Barda's like, you getting 2. You're not getting 6, not coming out of this. You're getting 2. And then that scene ends. So now we get the aftermath of Katisha and Damola's date. She goes to Javen and she explains to him, like, the meetup went well. And, we explained ourselves. And I told him that, I felt more in common with you. And Javen goes, well, did you apologize? And she's like, why would I apologize? And I'm just like, I know Javen was annoyed that she didn't do that. I know he could see little things on her that's just like, yo, this ain't it for me. Like, why would you not apologize? Why do you think that he did not deserve an apology from you? And again, you could tell that Javen just didn't like that she didn't do that. Even though they were fighting for the same woman, I could definitely see that Javen is a boy's boy at sometimes, or guys, is that how you say it? And again, that response just wasn't feeling it. So that pretty much ends the conversation. And then we get the final scene. When I tell y'all this scene was so funny, and that is Billy and Ashleigh in a grocery store. They call it a food store or something like that. We call it a supermarket, grocery store. Some people here in New York call them bodegas, kind of, so they're in a grocery store, and you could tell Ashleigh enjoys eating whatever she wants. She's looking at different kinds of fruits, different kind of vegetables. She picks up an onion, and you could see the stress in Billy's face. He's like, oh no, you got all this saturated fat and sauces. I don't do that. I am very routine. I eat the same damn thing every day, which is minced meat, rice, and vegetables. And Ashley looking at him like, yeah, that will be what you're gonna eat, but I'm not gonna eat that. I enjoy eating some sweets. I enjoy eating sauces in my food. Like, that is what I'm gonna do. Honey, they get to the cake and cookies, and I thought Billy was gonna have a heart attack. She put up this like variety platter, and she's like, don't this look good? And he's like, so you know, one slice is like 600 calories. And she looking at him like, I don't give a shit. If I want a slice of cake, I'm gonna eat that slice of cake. And he's just looking at her, and he's like, yeah, this is like not something I do. I'm a snacker. And if I see something that's not healthy, I'm just gonna like, he's the type of person like snacks, and don't know when to stop. So that's when the episode ends. Why every time I film, it's the noise? All right, so episode 7 opens up with Kieran and Megan. I don't know if the town is called Blackpool or just a concert hall, but they go to a place called Blackpool, and they decide they want to do a dance at their reception for the wedding. So she's teaching him a little bit of dance moves. I'm like, yes, Megan, show him how you work it, girl. So they do that, but then it also cuts to them having like a little bit of a lunch later on, and it looks like it's tea and small sandwiches. You know, again, they're discussing how excited they are to get married. And he says he can't wait to have a family with her. 20 years down the line, he sees them with little kids. And I'm just saying to myself, 20 years? In 20 years, y'all gonna be like in your 50s? I know you're not trying to have no kids late. You mean gonna have teenagers in your house, possibly even a 20-year-old in your house. I'm just saying. They just not gonna be little kids. So now we get to Ashleigh and Billy, and this is the aftermath of them going to the grocery store. Ashleigh is so like, not I wouldn't say stressed out, but she's like really worried about how Billy sees food, right? So she tells him like, listen, let's talk about yesterday at the grocery store. You know, what was going on just made me really overwhelmed and really uncomfortable. I do not see food the way you see it. And she explains to him when she was a young girl, I think about 14 years old, that she was very skinny. She was like a beanpole. And then she started to eat. She gained a little weight and she gained a little confidence. But again, she's just very concerned how he views food. And he explains to her, like, listen, you know me, I'm in the military, this very regiment. I don't want you to feel a certain way about you having sweets and things like that, because I eat the way I eat. And it kind of like eased her mind a bit, right? But then the next day, I believe it is, we do get to meet Billy's dad and his dog Ollie, and they're just talking about, you know, the situation, like how they met, how they fell in love. And his dad brings up her occupation, and he says, I'm very shocked that Billy pretty much chose you, because before he left, I made a comment about family not knowing about this experiment, but Billy's dad does. But Billy's dad says, I'm shocked of who he chose, because before he left, he specifically said that he does not want to be with a stewardess. And when I tell you, Ashleigh's face is shocked. She's like, what? And he's like, yes, I guess because of course the experiment prior before, and he's really iffy about the situation. And again, with these two, that is their problem. It's not necessarily little things like the food and, you know, how she makes up a bed and, you know, type of things. The main problem is her occupation, right? And I feel like they don't have an in-depth conversation about it. They kind of just like sweep it under the rug. The thing with Ashleigh is, and I'm going to explain this, I don't know if I explained it already. It's clear to me that Ashleigh has been at this job for maybe 10 years and she's not done anything else, and she's built a career within being a stewardess or a crew member, as they say it. And I don't think she has any experience in anything else. And I think what's holding her back is like she doesn't want to start over. She's already in a managerial position, kind of. in her career right now. And if she started something new, she has to gain the experience and she probably has to start all over again. And I don't think she wants to do that. Me personally, I wouldn't have a big deal of starting over with something else if it means to keep my marriage. But that's just me. That's just me. So now we're with so now we're with Barda and Jed, and we're going to meet Barda's best friend, Olivia. Olivia. I have so many thoughts on Olivia. But this one I'm going to tell you now. I think she's a bitch. I think she is too invested in Barda's personal life. I just don't like her energy. I don't like her attitude at all. So we meet Olivia, and Olivia right off says, if she doesn't approve of Barda's relationship, she's going to voice it. Way too invested. So we get them all meeting, and, they have a seat, and, he's saying hello to her. I think Barda gets like them some drinks or whatever. And Olivia says, well, how did you guys connect? And Jed goes, oh, are you talking to me? And she's like, yeah, explain yourself. And I'm just like, yo, what's with the attitude? Like, I don't know, guys. Like I said, I'm going to explain a little bit something later on, like in episode 9 and 10. But there's just something about her and her involvement in Barda that is just very like, I don't know. So, he explains to her how they connected, how they fell in love, and she's just not convinced. She's just looking at them like, And she says like, these are the other things this is the same things that Barda has said about her previous relationships, and she's very unsure. She asked them, I don't know what it is with all the people asking these two specifically, but she goes and says, like, have you guys had a disagreement yet? They've only been together for like 3 weeks. Not so many people who are together are going to have a disagreement that fast. But they say, oh no, we haven't had a disagreement. And she's even more like, I don't know about this, because how are you guys going to think that you're going to last if you guys haven't had a disagreement yet? And again, they haven't been together that long. What do you expect? I'm confused. No, they haven't had one. Will they have one eventually? Absolutely. Because they're not the same person. They're going to have different of opinions. So they will have a disagreement. But after like 3 weeks, come on, like, be for real, right? So then, she says, you know what, at this moment I approve, but she's still like on shaky ground. So now we get Sarova and Cal in their apartment, and they're just having a talk. Sarova is just like overwhelmed with the text messages that her mother and her sister are sending her. They're sending her these long paragraphs about pretty much what she's doing. They don't trust what she's doing. They say little mean, like not many mean things, but they're very skeptical of Cal and his intentions. And Cal was like, she's going to put it on me because she doesn't know me. And he's perfectly fine with that. And he's saying, hopefully when she meets me, she changes her mind. So now we get Javen and Katisha at his house, and he's showing her around. It's a cute little house. You know what I mean? He takes her out back, shows the soccer, and she's playing. He's like, you want to kick the ball? She's like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing with this. And, he explains to her, like, remember I had like 2 surgeries on my knee. And you could clearly tell that really kind of like shifted who he is as a person. He really probably put his whole life into soccer and think he was going to be this, I shouldn't say soccer, but football star. But then he got the knee injury and it just completely changed his life. And I think he's still very sad and very bitter about the situation. And I feel like that's what we're getting from him. He seems to be probably undertone of angry all the time because his life is not the way he expected to be. We meet his mother and his sister. His mother is so sweet, so welcoming. She's like, oh my God, look at my baby. Oh my God, you got to get your beard shaped up. We meet his cat, Panther, very tiny little cat. And then they sit down and have some Jamaican food, honey. I was like, Jamaican food. I'm from the Bronx, so I can just go up the block or I can go all the way up to Gun Hill and get me some Jamaican food. But I was just looking, I was like, that food looks good. And they start talking about, like, how did you guys decide to be engaged? Everybody gives the same spiel or whatever. But then Javen's sister asked them pretty much, what made you two come together? What do you guys have in common? And Katisha goes, we have lots of things in common. And then his sister goes, well, I'm waiting, explain. And when I tell you Katisha dropped the ball here, because they have nothing in common. They look like they don't even have conversations. I'm so serious. So she goes, we both love family. That's it? That's it? So many people have that in common. What else? And you could tell Javen's sister is just not feeling it. She's like, I don't get why y'all rushing this. I've been engaged for 18 months. I'm still prepping for my wedding. It's been 18 months and you guys only been together for a week. She's very skeptical. So then Javen and his mother get up and I guess they go into the kitchen or wherever and they have the conversation. We don't get a chance to see that. But we have Katisha and his sister talking, and Katisha kind of pretty much what's the word I'm looking for? She expresses to her that, that I really care about your brother and I'm all in this to get married, but there are things that we need to fix and it's our communication. Then Javen's sister, I forgot her name, but Javen's sister explains to her what I just said, that pretty much Javen is very hard to read. He smiles a lot, and they don't know if he's actually angry, sad, or actually happy. And she says that him getting injured, trying to be a professional football player, pretty much just changed him. And then they just sit there, and you can see Katisha like understanding it, but that's pretty much end of their meetup. So we get the final scenes of the episode, and it's the ones that we all been waiting for, and that's the couples meeting the singles. As you guys know, they don't know what the other singles look like. So we get the couples. They arrive at the bar or lounge. I don't think that was a restaurant because all the tables were kind of high up for just like not sit down type conversations. They did have seats, but who sits on a high chair for very long, right? So it's just, I guess, for quick mingling. But anyway, that's besides the point. The couples separate by all the men go this way, all the women go this way. The men are talking. Cal says the trip with Sarova to Wigan went excellent. He is so excited about their relationship. Kieran talks about the preparation of the wedding, how stressful and overwhelming it is, but he's still excited to marry Megan. Javen expresses to them that him and Katisha have not said that I love you. He is not in love with her, and we all know what's going to happen then. If you are not in love with this person yet, y'all not going to get married. We do have Billy and Cal kind of talking separately, and Billy does express to Cal how he's kind of like 50-50 on saying yes because he still has an issue with Ashleigh's occupation. And mind you guys, they still haven't had a deep talk about her occupation. I don't know why they have not had this discussion. It's really, really odd. I think that discussion should have been had once they got back to the apartments, right? So then we get the women, and we have Sarova, venting her frustrations about her mom, because her mom continues to send her these really lengthy messages about her, her engagement to Cal, and she's like, does this woman not trust me? Like, I have very good judgment, and she's just really frustrated with her mother. Now we get the singles trickling in, and we first get Patrick, and Patrick meets everybody. Everybody says hi, and he starts to talk about his experience with Anu and how the whole time he really didn't see a romantic relationship with Anu. It was more on a friendship level. And they're like, oh, well, you're going to have to talk to Anu. So then Anu arrives, and she greets all the girls. She says hi to all the guys, except for Patrick. She goes, oh, hi, and she turns around and she's like, what's weird? Everybody's like, oh, come on, Anu, like, don't do that. Give him a hug. And she's just she doesn't want to receive anything from Patrick. She actually expresses how hurt she was that he didn't propose because she thought he was going to propose. And I'm just like, you guys are not seeing each other, so you kind of get used to someone's tone. And I just felt like he just wasn't feeling it. And how did she not see that? I don't know, whatever. And I was shocked because I already expressed that I thought that she was kind of overwhelmed with the relationship, and when she was crying and she was taking those deep breaths, it was because that she was just happy it ended, and then she was kind of sad because the experiment failed for her. But from what she's saying here is a total opposite. So excuse me. So now we get Javen and Anu talking by the bar, and she's like, "Oh, how come we never dated more?" And I'm just saying to myself, Anu, you being messy. You know he's engaged. I don't care if you know that they didn't express their love for one another, or you know they're unsure of getting married. That's still messy to ask an engaged man that. So as they're talking, more singles are trickling in. You got Charlie that trickles in. Then you got Yvonne trickling in, and what's his name? Javen sees Yvonne, and he looks at Anu, and he's like she look good. And I'm like, oh God, this man is messy. He's just so messy. We get Zamola coming in. He says hi to everybody. He gives Katisha a hug, but then he goes over and he talks to Javen, and he pretty much said, him and Katisha's, talk, went good. They ended things, but he wanted to give Javen kind of a precaution. Like, listen, she did this to me, right? One day she was all in it with me, and then she flips it to you. Do you want to be in a relationship with somebody like that, where she's telling you yes, 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 I'm gonna get married to you, and then when you get to the altar, she's not with it? And I thought that was kind of shady for Damola to say that. And I think that's because he's bitter because what she did, and she didn't say sorry. And, Javin takes that in. He's like, yeah, I get it. I understand. And pretty much he's going to take an account to that. So everybody's mingling. Everybody's chatting. More people are coming in. And then we get Miss Sophie. So Miss Sophie comes through the door. Kieran turns around and he sees her. He says that she's attractive. She gives everybody a hug. She walks away. Then she goes over to Megan. I believe it's Megan, Sarova, and Barda. And she's like, how do you guys doing? How's y'all relationships? And then she kind of throws like a little jab at Megan. And she's like, Megan, you actually let him walk out the house with that ugly jacket on? And I'm just like, this woman is something else. Like, she's so bitter that this man chose Megan over her because she don't think Megan is probably that attractive, and she just thinks she is the bee's knees. And you're not. You gave nothing, sweetie. It's not just about your looks. You give nothing here and here. So that's why you did not proceed on with an engagement. So then she goes over to excuse me, I want to say Cal. She goes over to Kieran, and they have like a mini discussion. He again apologizes to her about the situation. She accepts it, and then she walks away. Megan is upset because I think off camera she had expressed how nasty Sophie is really how Sophie really is, because Kieran comes to her, and she asks him about like how the conversation went, and he's like, she's very lovely, she's very nice, and she's pretty much like, don't be fooled. He said, because I experienced all sides of her in the quarters, and that way she's presenting herself here, that's not who she is. She's a nasty human being. She doesn't say those words, but that's pretty much what it is. So now we get Sophie talking to Javen at the bar. And when I tell y'all, they was flirting, inappropriately flirting. How you doing? Oh my God. Oh, we had a connection. It was a really good connection. He's like, yeah. And the conversation goes on. He's like, don't you live close to here? She's like, oh yeah, I live 5 minutes. Javen, why do you need to know that? Why do you need to know that? Now, mind you, the whole time they're having a conversation, Katisha's at the bar, but she's a little ways away, and she's turning around. She's getting kind of disgusted by the whole situation. And then it cuts to them in their apartment, and Javen is eating something. She comes to the table, and she pretty much was just like, what is the conversation that you and Sophie had? It's like they were catching up, and pretty much that's what I'm stumbling on my words. Lord have mercy, forgive me. And that's pretty much it. They just had like a conversation. Obviously, she's really upset, but she's not expressing how she feels. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to bed. And she goes to her room. Javen gets a phone call from somebody. I'm assuming it's either Patrick or Damola, letting them know that there's going to be like an after party, like, you know, off camera. All the singles are going to be there. Some of the couples are going to be there. And Javen's like, I'm down. Where are we going to be at? I think they were at GAY. I think that's what it is. Gay. I don't know why I just didn't say gay. I mean, he's like, all right, I'm coming. And then you cut to Katisha in the bed, and she's still upset. And Javen, stop calling him Javen. His name is Javen. Javen comes down. He's like, I'm headed out. I'm going to the bar or whatever. She's like, all right. And he bounces. And that's the end of the episode. Yeah, let's go into episode 8. All right, so episode 8 starts off with the next day, and Javen and Katisha are preparing themselves to go to Scotland to meet her family. And, you know, she asked him how the night was. He said it was okay, who was there. He explains the singles were there, you know, Anu, Patrick, Sophie, Yvonne, probably like Charlie and whoever was there. But then he also says that Megan and Kieran were there. And, you know, she's like, are you ready to like go to Scotland and meet my family? You know, I wasn't sure if you were going to have, you know, have a hangover. And he's like, as you can see, I don't have a hangover. Why would you think I'll be hung over to meet your parents? Do you really think that's who I am as a person? And she's like, no, you know, but again, you know, we're just getting to know each other, so I don't know what your hangover looks like. Clearly, he is offended by her even insinuating that he would do that. But I feel like even though Javen doesn't scream, he still gives off intimidation to her, that I feel like she's so afraid that she can't fully like express herself, you know what I mean? But then it cuts to her and she's like, you know, this is a different relationship. Javen is not my ex's. I have to give him grace. And I'm just saying to myself, no, he's just like your exes, just in a different font. I don't know if like her ex-boyfriends were black like Javen. I feel like they are. But it's just like, no, he's the same as the other ones. That's why you chose him. You chose him because he was safe compared to having a real relationship with Damola. Let's be real here. So then we cut to Kieran and Megan in their apartment, and they're talking about last night. And Megan is so disgusted by Javen's behavior last night. When he came to the club or bar, she was shocked that he wasn't with Katisha, and how he was with the girls the whole night, how he was chumming up with Anu, Yvonne, and Sophie. But when he first got there, he beelined to Sophie, and then they had went away and they went into this booth. Megan is pissed, and she's like, I'm gonna go tell Katisha. She said, I don't care. I'm going to tell Katisha what happened that night. So now we get Billy and Ashleigh headed up to Belfast to meet his mother and his sister. And when you meet his mother and sister, I can see why Billy's regiment is so strict. It has nothing to do with him in the military. I think because his father, his mother, and his sister are overweight, and he does not want to look like them. I think that's the main reason. Call me crazy, but I just think it's that. So they meet. His mother, his sister are lovely. They treat Ashleigh so nicely. They got her some snacks. They got Billy his own special snacks because, you know, he's on his regiment. He appreciates it. They talk. They have a good conversation. Billy pulls his sister to the side and they go into the kitchen to have a discussion, you know, and she's like, I really like Ashleigh. Like, what are your thoughts? Are you know, is it going to be a yes to be married? And he said, like, he really loves Ashleigh, but the only thing that he's scared about, and he's 50-50 about, the same conversation, y'all, the same conversation is about her job. And I'm just like, when are you guys going to have this damn talk? Like, I don't understand. You guys like have a week and a half left and you still have yet to have this goddamn conversation with her. This is utterly ridiculous. So now we cut to Javen and Katisha, and they meet her family at this really cute like trampoline place. Katisha's siblings are very young. compared to her. She's in her 30s. Clearly the oldest out of the siblings that we saw. She looked like she may be about 14, maybe 14, and everybody else was like younger. Her mom looks like she's in her 50s, maybe her early 50s. So I'm thinking she had Katisha at a really young age. But she tells all her siblings, she's like, I'm engaged to get married. They're like, some of them don't even know what the hell she's talking about because they're so young. And her older sister's like, and she pretty much was like, okay, whatever. Can I go play my trampoline? And she's like, yes. And all the kids go and they go and play. And then the mom talks to both of them. She is worried about how Katisha is going to be treated, right? She says what Katisha viewed in her life when it comes to her and her stepfather, because that's not Katisha's father. She's like, he treated her mother like a queen. Her stepfather treated her mother like a queen. And she says to Javen, I am not accepting anything less for my daughter. Are you ready to treat my daughter like that? And he sits there and he smiles. I don't know if he said yes or not, but she was just like, that is what I want my daughter to have, and that's all I'm accepting. So then after that, it cuts to like Javen. Why I keep calling this man Javen? Javen playing with the trampolines with her siblings. And then, Katisha's talking to her mom, and she pretty much voices her concern about the communication between her and Javen. It's not the best, and they really need to work on it. And her mother just like gets how it's just very like, are you sure you're ready to get married? Like pretty much, are you sure that this is the man for you? And Katisha like reassures her like, everything is fine. I really wish Katisha would tell her true feelings. That seems to be a major problem with her. She did it to Damola in the pod. She kind of did it to Javen in the pods, and she's doing it on the outside. I don't know why she's so afraid to really truly express how she feels. It's kind of annoying, and I don't know if she's doing it because she knows deep down that he's not it, but she's still trying to like push through. I don't know. It's just like, it's really annoying to like watch. So finally we get Cal meeting Sarova's mother and sister. Can I say this? Sarova is a beautiful woman, but her mom and her sister are even more beautiful. First of all, how old is her mother? Her mother looks very young. If her mother said she was in her early 40s, I would believe her. That's how good she looks. So they sit down, they meet, and straight away, Sarova's mother was like, why did you choose my daughter? Why you pick my daughter? Why are you engaging my daughter? And he says like, I chose her because we have a lot of things in common. And he kind of stays silent. And her mother's like, well, elaborate on that. And he says, family, they have like family in common, how much they love their family and how much they into fitness. Every time Cal says something, they always pan to the sister, and the sister is just not here for any of it. She just be like, she looks at him, she looks at her sister, she looks at her mother like, are you believing this crap? Like, are you really listening to this crap? And so then he elaborates a little bit more. He says, pretty much like, I really love your daughter. I can't wait to have children with her. She's gorgeous. And he goes, good job, by the way. And Sarova, her sister, and her mother are so bothered by that statement. They're just like, and the whole time he's talking, you got her mother just listening to him, kind of like just trying to figure him out. The sister over there like, I ain't feeling this. And Sarova's over there like, she about to cry. She is so nervous. She's like, so then, she talks to her daughter like pretty much like, this is not normal for you, and Sarova addresses her mother about the text messages. She says, you've been giving me a lot of text messages, I guess in the last couple of weeks, and it's very unsettling to me because you know who I am as a person. I've always been on the straight and narrow. Yes, this is an odd situation where I'm getting married. You guys never met him, but what have I ever done that was wrong? What have I ever done that you couldn't trust me? Why can't you trust my judgment now? You know, and Cal tries to reassure her mom and her sister, like, I really love your daughter. She's not something usually I would date, but that's what I admire and that's what I like. And he said, I'm really in love with your daughter and I'm going to marry her. That's when you can tell, like, her mother was just like feeling at ease. And then she gives her approval for them to marry, and then the conversation ends. But her sister, to me, I don't know if she ever talked to her on the side, but you could tell clearly her sister was not feeling this interaction at all. So now we get Barnett and Jed at his home. He has a nice little house, very clean, very simple. You shouldn't expect much from a man, especially when he's single and there hasn't been a woman in the home. But, you know, she goes through it. She's like, this is a very nice house, but, you know, you need a woman's touch. They go into, like, the TV room, and she sees, like, his gaming system, and she's like, oh, can we put that away? And I'm saying to myself, if this is a house, it's probably multiple bedrooms. Just design one of the bedrooms or whatever space that you can as his gaming room and call it a day. She's looking at this wall. She's like, I could see, you know, pictures of us, our wedding pictures, and the pictures of us over here. He agrees. They go out to the backyard because they're going to meet his parents. So his parents arrive. He gives them a hug. Everybody gives each other hugs. And then the mother says, you know, how did this go about? Like, how did you guys fall in love and to get engaged? And then, you know, they explained, you know, we met through the pods the first time that we met. We just really enjoyed our talks, that we just really knew that we were each other's choice. And then as we continued on with the days, we just fell in love, and then, you know, they're engaged. And his mother's very skeptical. She's like, this is a lot, and you're pretty much rushing the situation. You guys don't just want to, you know, continue dating and get to know one another. And then Barda explains to her, like, you know, my parents have been married about the similar time as his parents. And, you know, she really wholeheartedly believes in marriage. She really loves Jed, and she just wants to put her all into it. And then when she references their marriage, right, the father kind of jokes. He's like, yeah, a lifetime sentence. And it's just so cute. The mother's looking at him like, no, you didn't just say that. But they all just laugh and they chuckle. But then, you know, again, his mother kind of like expresses her worries about it. And then Jed asks his father, like, what do you think? What are your thoughts on the situation? He's like, listen, I'm a very positive person. If this is what you guys choose to do, I'm all here for it. Excuse me, all here for you. He said, but this one over here, talking about his wife, he's like, she's the pessimist one. She's the skeptical one. Y'all gotta convince her, not me. They all chuckle and they laugh, and that ends the scene. So now we get Katisha and Megan, honey, and Megan is ready to spill the beans to Katisha. So they meet up at Megan and Kieran's apartment. They sit down, and Megan goes in. She says, you know, after the mixer with all of us, you know, some of us went to like the after party, that she expected her to be there. But she says what's the word I'm looking for? I can't believe, I'm just going to say this. The way Javen was moving was just something she did not agree with. She said when he arrived there, he beelined to Sophie. All night he talked to the girls. She said that one time she saw Javen and Sophie go like away into the photo booth, never to be seen. But then when he came back, he continued on to flirt with Yolanda. Then he flirted with the new. And Katisha is stunned. She's like, what? What are we talking about? Like, what? Why was he doing that? What did he need to flirt with them? Why is he talking to Sophie like that? And she is just upset. Megan like apologized to her, but she just wanted her to know the behavior of Javen that night. So then Katisha storms off. You know, she doesn't storm off, but she leaves and she goes into the apartment and she packs up her stuff. As she's packing her stuff, here comes Javen, and he's like, what's going on? What are you doing? And she confronts him. She's like, why didn't you tell me what you were doing that night? And he's like, what are you talking about? I did. She's like, why didn't you tell me you was talking to them all night, flirting with the girls all night? He's like, I wasn't flirting with no girls all night. He said, I spoke to these girls for about 10 minutes. I was hanging out with the guys. And she said, Megan told me that you were flirting with all the girls the whole time, that you were with Sophie. You went into a booth. And he's like, what are you talking about? I went to the booth because I was arguing with Sophie. And I'm just like, What? What? What are you talking about? Explain to me what you're arguing with Sophie about. You don't know this woman. What are you arguing about? And why did you have to remove yourself to argue? Y'all don't know each other to even continue the argument. I'd have been like, we had a disagreement. I'm going here, you go there. Why'd you have to go into a photo booth to have an argument with her? He is a liar, just like a newbie saying.
You're a liar. You're a liar.
He is a liar. And I cannot believe he came up with that excuse. He was in that booth with Sophie making out with her. Point blank, period. Remember the night before, not the night before, during the mixer, he asked her, he was like, so you live 5 minutes away? And she's like, yeah, I live right down the street. He was flirting with Sophie because he knew he was going to marry Katisha and he wanted to have a backup. Remember, guys, when we were first introduced to him, he was saying how, like, pretty much he always had multiple girls. He never had a long-term relationship. Javen is a fuckboy. He saw a variety of different women and he went back to his ways, flirting and doing whatever he wanted to do. So he's telling her, he's like, I was not flirting with these girls. I was talking to them. I was hanging out with the fellas all night. And I cannot believe Katisha is sitting there and believing him. She's literally sitting there believing him. And she stopped packing her bag and she just sits on the bed. And I'm just like, oh, Katisha, this is a pattern that you're having here. Didn't your ex do the same thing and you just so quickly to believe him? So then after that, we get the next day and we do see Katisha sitting at a table and she's writing, honestly, she wrote a very short letter to Javen. Pretty much, I'm sorry that this experiment didn't work out. Pretty much she's leaving and here's your ring. She literally wrote like 3 sentences and she goes out and she's like, you know what? I've dealt with this before in a previous relationship and I'm not dealing with it again. She gets in a cab and she leaves. Then it cuts to Javen with the letter in the like dining room kitchen area. He sits down, got the ring. He reads her note. He smiles. Can I say he looked a little hurt? I don't know if it's his bruised ego, but he did look a little hurt in the face. But he gets up, he rips the piece of paper off, he throws it in the trash. Then we see him talking to the camera. He's like, he's pissed. He's pissed because the reason why Katisha broke up with him because of the lies of Megan. And he's so pissed at Megan that he wants to have a conversation with her and Kieran. So then it cuts to Javen sitting on the balcony and he calls Patrick and he's telling Patrick what happened. And Patrick was like, what is she talking about? You were with the fellas all night. And I'm just like, Patrick, cut the shit. Javen called you when the cameras stopped so you could vouch for him. And I wouldn't believe anything you say anyway, because Anu just blasted you on social media that during the experiment, you were having a child with someone else. So nobody's going to believe you or your spleen. So then we cut to Megan and Kieran going up to what was Katisha and Javen's apartment. And they sit down and Javen's like, as you can see, Katisha's not here. She left the experiment. And he's like, why would you lie to her? Why would you say those things to her? And Megan was like, what you mean lie? I told her what I saw. I saw you flirting with the girls all night. I saw you going into that photo booth with Sophie. And he's like, what are you talking about? I went in a photo booth to Sophie to argue. And she's like, no, mate, you was flirting. And he's like, the photo booth didn't even have a curtain. She was like, yes, the photo booth did have a curtain. It was drawn and they going back and forth. And Kieran looked so uncomfortable. But what's pissing me off about Kieran, he was not speaking up. Your I'm just going to say wife. Your wife is arguing with the man. This man is arguing with your wife and you're not stepping in. But then he eventually steps in and he's like, listen, there was definitely a curtain and that curtain was drawn. And you could see that Javen was caught in his lies. He's like, what are you talking about? There was no curtain. And Megan is telling him, she's like, stop playing with me. She's like, pretty much, you know what you did. It was unacceptable. I told her what you did, and that's just it. I didn't like the way you move, and I'm not going to sit here and I'm going to continue arguing with you. She said, fuck off. She said, fuck off, mate. And then she goes on the balcony because she is tight. She is pissed that this man's trying to sit there and manipulate them and tell them that they was lying about the situation when they're not. And she was saying, like, I've dealt with men like this before. And she's like, I just had to remove myself. Javen and Kieran are sitting there, and Javen's like, I apologize that, you know, I was yelling at your fiance, but what's happening is lies. And Kieran's just sitting there like, no, this is the things that we saw. Kieran gets up. He consoles Megan. Megan is not like, she's not like crying upset, but she's like steaming mad. And she's like, mate, I can't believe that this man's sitting here and lying. And that ends the episode. What are y'all thoughts on episode 6, 7, and 8? I'm surprised that it took this long for Javen and Katisha to split. These two had zero in common. I don't know if Javen was only doing this experiment to become like an influencer, you know, or famous, but I don't understand their connection. Obviously, Katisha only went with Javen because he was similar to her past and she wanted to play it safe. She didn't truly want to be with her Mr. Darcy. And that, again, that's why she went with Javen. I'm so glad these two are over. They were getting on my nerves. I'm hoping that Billy and Ashleigh have a real talk. I forgot to say this. After the meeting with, I'm going to say this now because I didn't say it before, but after the meeting with Billy's mother and sister, they did do like this like lake dive or whatever, and they did have a conversation, and Billy does tell her like, listen, I'm 50-50 and it's all because of your job. She's shocked, which I don't understand why she's shocked. I really feel like she was happy that it was swept under the rug and it wasn't coming up as a topic, but she knew that he was having issues with that and it was going to come up again. But he tells her, he expresses to her, like, I'm not feeling your job. You're not going to be around like that. This is, I want to be married one last time. I'm not pretty much playing games. And she's just shocked about the things that he says. And that pretty much ends the conversation. But again, what do you guys think of episode 6, 7, and 8? Leave your comments down below, and I'll see you guys in 9 and 10, the finale. Y'all have a good one. Bye.